Okay, hello, niece and nephew. It's Uncle Ryan. But today, I'm not. I'm just fine. So today, we'll be talking about GRV. And again, I'm not Uncle, so I won't be doing that bit. We'll be talking about GRV and FtMGS. But first, since I'm new and everything, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Ryan LIESANDY, and my last name starts with Lies and ends with Y. I started playing since 2018. I became a judge since 2019 and haven't graduated from college since 2020. Oh boy, that was sad. Okay, happy. My favorite format, yes. Okay. My favorite format would be Commander. I have a whole box just for usable and stable for Commander cards. And I'm the type that's rather have a variety of decks, just rather than one strong, perfect 100% winning deck. I'm totally a casual Commander player, believe me. My favorite deck is probably Rogrock Silas ad nauseam Turbo. Yeah, believe me, guys. I'm totally casual player. I am. Okay. So onto the more serious stuff. In this presentation, you'll get a lot of things. And the most important one is that you get to know me. Well, kind of like the whole point of this presentation anyway, but not only that, you'll also get what is GPE, what's in GPE, what is GRV, what's the penalty for GRV, what's the fix, what is FtMGS, why is FtMGS even an infraction at all, and obviously a quiz. Don't worry though, trust me, the quiz is easy, just like how you trust me for being a casual Commander player. So what is GRV? What's FtMGS? Before we talk about both of those, we need to talk about GPE. Surely you guys know what GPE is. GPE is short for gameplay error. Gameplay error is an error committed by at least one player during a match unintentionally not following the rule of the game. That's why it's called gameplay error, because the gameplay has an error. Very mind-blowing, yeah, I know, right? It's also said unintentionally with capital and bold, but what does it say unintentionally? You guys can type the answer in chat. And if you have questions or anything, okay, yeah, you guys can start typing the answer. If you guys have questions or anything, we'll pull that and I'll answer it after every segment. Can I see chat from here? Oh, there it is. Yes, Rogrock Silas is casual, believe me. So it says, it specifically says unintentionally because it's done. If it's done intentionally, that's just cheating. And I'm not here to talk about cheating. The time is not enough. Probably. GPE can happen for a lot of reasons, like getting tired, distracted, you don't know the rule, you forgot to read the cards, the plays too complex, or probably even playing too fast. But remember, everyone can screw up. That's why GPE is very common. Even for pro players, you can screw up anything. So that's why WotC put things that you can screw up into several categories. And these are the categories that they make. There is mistrigger, when they screw up the trigger, looking at extra cards, when you screw up looking at cards, hidden card error, when you screw up things your opponent can see, mulligan procedure error, when you screw up before the game even starts, oh my God, that's just a failure to maintain game state, where you screw up noticing people's mistake. And then there's GRV, when you screw up things not listed anywhere else. So basically, oh, sorry. And there we go. Yeah. So basically, WotC gives up putting everything into categories. So they just make GRV and shove everything in, everything that's not on the other GPE. And today's highlight is for the bottom two of GPE, that's GRV and FtMGS. So first, let's talk about GRV. According to the CR definition, GRV is an infraction that covers the majority of game situations in which a player makes an error or fails to follow the game procedures correctly. It handles violation of 40 comprehensive rules that are not covered by the other gameplay error. But probably when they make GRV, one intern asked too many questions and they didn't think of, and they just said, okay, anything you ask, anything you just said, if it's not in our GPE, that's on GRV. So basically GRV is when you screw up, but WotC is too lazy to make it into a new category. Well, but to be honest here, it's just really impossible to cover everything. We can't expect WotC to imagine every possible scenario and put them into their own respective categories. And imagine that we as a judge, we need to memorize each and every one of them. Oh my God, no. Oh. And also each other problems in other categories like mistriggers and all that, they require additional and or a more specific fix. Okay, so we move on to the example. The example of GRV is pretty simple. It's like casting Wrath of God for 2 red. Wait, I lost my notes. Okay, for 2 whites. Okay, my internet is going off. Sorry. You know what? I don't need this. Okay, so basically, when we are casting Wrath of God with one colorless, a white and a white, you're supposed to cast Wrath of God with 2 colorless, a white and a white, but you're only casting it with 3 mana. That's not mistrigger. That's not this trigger. That's not looking at the cards. That's not hidden card error. That's not mulligan procedure error, and that's not failure to maintain game state. So that is GRV. So I'll tell you another example for GRV. Another example for GRV is when you're supposed to use a creature that has to attack every turn but didn't attack. For example, Juggernaut. Wait, not this Juggernaut. This one. Juggernaut needs to attack each combat, but you didn't. So it's not a mistrigger, it's not looking at extra cards, it's not hidden card error, it's not looking at procedure error, and not FtMGS. But this is a gameplay error, so it has to be GRV. Remember, if you think too long and it doesn't fit into any other categories, it's probably GRV. Also, these are the most common GRVs that are actually listed on the IPG. This is the list of what people frequently screw up. It's casting manas with insufficient or incorrect mana, targeting like targets like Hexproof or Shroud, for getting static ability with continuous effect, like +1/+1 or depth touch. And also incorrect application of state-based action, which is layers. Yeah, layers. Oh my god, layers. So many layers. I admit, I also screw up sometimes. It's okay to screw up, but the most important thing is that we don't do it intentionally, don't abuse it, and we learn from it. And the penalty for GRV is warning, usually. But they screw up so bad, and the penalty is only a warning? That's not enough. You have to make them suffer. And I agree. Sometimes warning seems not enough, but GRV is common. So if the penalty is game loss, a lot of people with half game loss, they won't enjoy the game. And also, I don't enjoy giving the penalty like that. It's unfair to people who's actually honest, like it's an honest mistake. It's just unfair to them. And also, players are not the only one responsible to maintain game state, but the opponent is also responsible for it. That's why opponent can also get a warning when a player commits a GRV. It's called failure to maintain game state, and I will tell you about it later. There's also a double GRV warning where both players gets GRV. If the judge believes that both player commits GRV, both player gets GRV. For example, Anthony casts Path to Exile to Nelson's creature. Nelson should have put the creature into the exile zone, but he instead put it in the graveyard, and Anthony didn't realize this until 2 turns later. Nelson screwed up by putting his creature into the graveyard. This is clearly GRV. But Anthony also screwed up because the Path to Exile is his card. And obviously, he is responsible for the effect. Both Anthony and Nelson now get GRV. Okay. Let's have another case, shall we? In this case, there. Nelson's having Torpor Orb on the field. Anthony casts Kitchen Finks. Anthony declares that he will gain 2 life. And Nelson fled the ability to resolve. Okay, you guys can help me with this. What infraction is this? Type in the chat. So also tell the answer. I'll give probably 1 minute, 1 minute and a half too. Is my voice clear? Okay, yay. So going double GRV. Okay, yeah, voice is good, thank you. So yes, Sugeng answered it, and it's right. It's double GRV because, and there's Bob1. Did I say that correctly? Carcass Bob1. Yeah, it's GRV for both players. Exactly. Just like the one from before. Nelson's controlled the Torpor Orb, even while Anthony commits the GRV by declaring the Kitchen Finks ability. Nelson has the Torpor Orb, therefore he's also responsible for it, and he doesn't say anything, so that's double GRV. Amazing. And as judges, we need to be consistent with these kinds of infraction, regardless of their impact to the game. For example, compare these 2 scenarios. In example 1, Anthony and Nelson is playing at about turn 10. Anthony plays a land, Mountain, and hesitates for a moment to attack with Primeval Titan. He finally decides to attack with Primeval Titan, search for lands from his deck. He thinks for a long time whether to activate Kazakh Wolfrun or not, since it has a lot of damage. But he decided not to, and he plays another land before passing the turn. Nelson realized this on the next turn, and calls the judge. The judge gave Anthony a warning, and Nelson agrees, so the game continues. Nelson aren't too bothered by it since Anthony already controlled a dozen lands, and another one wouldn't make much difference. Now we go to example 2. Anthony plays a land, plays a good creature that would allow him to win next turn. In this case, a Crackling Drake with 10 power, and Nelson has 8 life. If he doesn't remove this Crackling Drake, he will die. So on his turn, Nelson tries to cast a removal spell on the opposing creature. Oh wait, yeah. After he casts the good creature, he plays another land and then passes the turn. In their turn, Nelson tries to cast a removal spell on the creature, which is Doomblade. But Anthony counters it thanks to his extra land, Steam Vents. Nelson concedes. Then the spectator points out that Anthony had one too many lands on the battlefield. Nelson counts the lands again and accuses Anthony for cheating, but he discovers that the spectator was correct, because without Steam Vents, the negate wouldn't even be possible. For us judges, it's the same. The infraction is about playing extra land, but the same thing made a very different outcome from example 1 and 2. In example 1, the extra land isn't very impactful, and Nelson was content with Anthony only getting a warning. But in example 2, it's different. The land drop was very crucial and would not have made Nelson concede. Nelson might ask a penalty upgrade to game loss, and even more so, he accuses Anthony of cheating. The penalties may fail to satisfy both players, especially if one of them suffered the full consequences of the error, and even more so if the error is from their opponent's mistake, just like the other one, just like this one. They might start demanding that the opponent should get the game loss or something else instead of just a warning. And you might think, well, we should have the ability to give game loss in such a situation, even if it's the same problem, since it has much more impact to the players. But remember, we as a judge, we don't deviate from the IPG. When a violation occurs, a judge should address it by first identifying what infraction applies, and then proceed with the corresponding instruction. We only deviate from the IPG is when we're in significant or exceptional circumstances, or a situation that has no applicable philosophy for guidelines. This is from IPG1, a general philosophy. An example to this is when there's a fire alarm and everyone's tardy. According to the IPG, we should give everyone a warning for tardiness since they're late. But this is an exceptional case, so they might not do it altogether. And also, deviating from the IPG might become a horrible, horrible experience for the player. I get a warning for this mistake on LGS-A, then getting game loss for the same mistake on LGS-B is a horrible experience. It's like, what? Why? I did the same thing, and the penalty was different. It's so different, even though they're both competitive REL, they're both competitive events, but it's different. That's why we need to understand what is GRV and apply the penalty as per infraction, not the impact of the infraction. Also, fun fact, only the head judge is authorized to issue penalties deviating from the IPG guidelines. If you think they should deviate from the IPG, you should contact your head judge. Okay, so we're moving on to the fix for GRV. When GRV happens, you should first consider a simple backup, backing up the last action completed. Okay, so I'm going to tell you first that there's simple back for the fix for GRV is simple backup, partial backup, full backup, and let it go. I'm going to explain them one by one. So first, consider simple backup, backing up the last team completed or still in progress. This would make it easier for judges to clean their mistake. For example, I cast a shock with Relic Tower, And then the opponent say, wait, you can't do that. And they call judge. So you return the shot to the hand and untap the relic for tower, give it a warning. That's the fix. But if it's not sufficient, you can do partial fix. A partial fix is where you fix the error without backing up. But terms and condition applies. You should only do this if the infraction falls into one of these categories and perform the appropriate partial fix. These are the categories. And I'm going to give example because it's just easier to do that. When a player forgets to untap one or more permanent at the start of the turn and is still on the same turn, just untap permanents. For example, at the start of Anthony's turn, Anthony immediately draw and wanting to cast up. And then he realized he didn't have the mana to untap it. He realized he didn't have the mana because he didn't untap the island. In this case, simply give Anthony a warning and fix by untapping his permanent now. There's no need to return the card to the top, untap the land, and then draw again. Oh my gosh, that's just make things so more complicated. Just untap it like this. There's also when a player made illegal choice for static ability generating continuous effect still on the battlefield, that player makes legal choice immediately. For example, Anthony casts Voice of All and ends the turn. Now Nelson casts Doomblade targeting Voice of All. They then realize that Anthony has a basic choice for Voice of All. So the partial fix here is that Anthony have to name a color right now. If he says black, then Doomblade would be stupid. When that happens, we can do simple backup to the time before Doomblade is cast. So you can just return Doomblade to hand, and then he has protection from black. And then it starts from there. This can lead to one player having an advantage, like knowing the opponent's Doomblade, for example. But this error usually happens publicly, so both players needs to be attentive. So it's both players' fault for not noticing Voice of All's ability, for not doing the Voice of All's ability. There's another one. When a player fails to discard or return a card from hand to another zone, the player does so. In this example, Anthony again has a 2/2 bear token, and his opponent, Nelson, has a 4/4 elemental token. Anthony thinks for a while, he goes to combat phase. He thinks again for a while, should he attack or not? And then he went to his post-combat man phase. Thinks for a while again and activate chart a course, drawing 2 cards. And then he ends his turn. The refraction is realized at the end of the opponent's turn. So he has 2 cards in hand, and he should have discarded that. Now that the infraction is realized, whenever it is, even if it's realized 2 or 3 turns later, Anthony has to discard a card, and obviously he will get a warning. So he'll discard a card whenever it is, whenever this thing is realized. And then there's this one, the most complicated one. If it's an object, is an incorrect zone due to a required zone change being missed, or due to it being put into the wrong zone during zone change, the exact object is still known to all players, and it can be moved with only minor disruption to the current state of the game. Put the object in the right zone. Oh my god. Okay, that's way too wordy and way too complicated. I'll break it down into several parts to help you guys understand better. So let's look at the first sentence. The object in the incorrect zone due to a required zone change being missed. This is where a creature that's supposed to die didn't, or a card that's supposed to get milled didn't, or a creature that's supposed to be bounced back to the hand didn't. Basically, when they're supposed to go somewhere else, but they don't. Or being put into the wrong zone during the zone change. Just like the path to exile, just like the part to exile, where the card's supposed to get exiled is going to the graveyard, or when card that's supposed to the graveyard went to exile instead. That's what it meant. And then the identity of the object was known to all players. Like every player needs to know what the object is. The card is either revealed, like it's face up on the battlefield, or it's revealed from hand somehow, or it's in the location known by players, like at the top of the library or the bottom library, whichever. And it can be moved with only minor disruption to the current game state of the game. Like a creature disappearing mid-combat, that's too disruptive. This decision is for us to judge the thing. Think about the action, about the decisions and action currently on the battlefield before making this judgment. When it's done, you put the object, when everything is according to all the sentences, you can put the object into the correct zone. But this does not include things that shouldn't have moved but did, like a 4/4 with 3 damage that goes to the graveyard. It won't return back to the field. It will stay in the graveyard. And then there's the 5th one. The player hasn't decked the player damage assignment. This is really irrelevant, and usually the intent is clear, like when you attack and then they block, even with multiple blockers, usually the intent is clear, but it might become relevant, like this one. Anthony attacks with his 7/7 creature. Nelson blocks with 6/6 and 2/2 with certain abilities that annoy Anthony. So usually they would deal 2 damage to Adrix and 5 to Colossal Dreadnought, or 6 to Colossal Dreadnought and 1 to Adrix. But Anthony didn't say anything, and he didn't do a damage assignment. And Nelson immediately plays a spell, Blossoming Defense, and give Adrix into a 4/4, making Adrix into a 4/4. And again, Anthony hasn't declared the damage assignment. Now, what should we do? For each of these, a simple backup might be performed to make things easier to fix. So for this one, you can just back up before the card was cast or the Blossoming Defense was cast, and has Anthony declare the damage assignment right now. Also, when you're doing a partial fix, a simple triggered abilities may be generated from a partial fix only if they would have occurred had the action have been taken at the correct time. So for example, Anthony forgot to discard a card, it discards one, and it would trigger Nelson's Liliana's Caress, and he would also lose 2 life because of Liliana's Caress. And if backing things up is not enough, you can consider leaving things as is or just let it go. You can also do backup if if leaving it will make it much worse. Consider backing up as a last resort. So for example, Anthony drawing 3 cards from a divination would mean Anthony having an extra card in his hand. In this case, we would back up. But imagine if this happens like 10 turns ago, with other interaction going on. Backing up to that point might make the game state worse than letting Anthony having an extra card in his hand. In this scenario, we should just let it go, since backing up would make things worse. Another example, this one's probably easier to get, like why Anthony casts Shock by tapping a Reliquary Tower to Nelson, and then ends his turn. Nelson's play up by tapping an island. But before he resolved the effect up, he realized that Anthony used the Reliquary Tower to cast Shock. He then calls a judge. At this point, you guys don't just return the Shock to hand and untap, but also return the up to the hand, untapping the island, and then return the up to the hand, and starting from there. You don't Don't just fix one. If you're doing a backup, return everything, all of them. Don't leave one out. And in this situation, backing up wouldn't cause much disruption to the game. It's better than leaving Nelson unrightfully getting shot. And then now, imagine another scenario. Anthony casts shock by tapping a liquid tower to Nelson's Dottie Voidwalker. Then casts Mirror Retriever, immediately sacrificing it to Procrant's Ironworks for 2 mana, returning Memory Jar to the hand by Mirror Retriever's ability, sacrificing two other artifacts, creating 4 more mana, casting Memory Jar, activates it, exiling their hands, and draws 7 new cards. Anthony then exiles Simeon Spirit Guide to cast Gamble, tutoring a card from the deck, and then discards 1 card at random. He plays the mountain, and then he realized that he cast the shock with colorless mana. He calls the judge. Now, well, that's complicated. We're here to uphold the rules, sure, but we have to make sure that the game goes smoothly. This was too far. Backing up would really disrupt the game, especially since he shuffled the deck, he tutors card, and all that. We don't back up. We just simply let things go. So basically, letting it go maybe it might be the way to go instead of trying to fix things this complicated. Now you guys know that if GRV occurs, you can use one of the 4 methods. A simple backup, or a partial fix, only for certain conditions. A full backup, just like the one before, or you can let it go. So to summarize for you guys, the key points for GRV is an unintentional error in a game that doesn't fit into any other infraction in GPE. GRV penalties should only be warning, unless opponent has no way to detect the infraction, like casting Morph creature with a Morph. That can cause a game loss. That's probably like the only 1 or 2 things that can cause a game loss with GRV. Both players are responsible to keep track on what's happening in the game, except if it's a triggered ability. Only the owner is responsible. I will tell that. And both players can receive GRV at the same time. And GRV has partial fix, but only for specific scenarios. You can also do backup for GRV, simple or full, or you can just let it go, let the game continue, whichever less disruptive. And now you know about GRV. Now we're going to talk about FtMGS. If anyone have a question, you can ask now in chat. If you don't, then I will move to FtMGS. Whee! Oh, for the definition part, where's the definition part? The definition part, I was just trying to make an example of what's a backup, what's the partial fixes, or what's the action to do that one. To do for backup and that. The partial fix for GRV is I already gave examples like for each and every one of the parts, like this one. There's too many slides. Oh my god. I can't do that. Okay, there we go. So just like this one, these are all the examples for the partial fix. When you go here, what like this one for charter course, you draw two card, you draw one more cards and wait for GRV. Like this one, for example. For Doomblade and a Voice of All. A Voice of All doesn't have a protection from anything because it's not declared. But when Doomblade is cast, the controller of Voice of All needs to declare what protection he has right now. You don't have to return Doomblade to the hand immediately or something else, or return it to the game state where everything else is happening. It's because after you cast Voice of All, you might cast another card, and then going to their turn, they cast Doomblade. You don't have to back all those up. You just need to declare what the Voice of All, what protection the Voice of All has, and that's it. And then you can do a simple backup from where Doomblade is cast. That's the example for partial fix in GRV for Benny. And for Sashi, yeah, the definition example is only me trying to explain with an example for where to back up or to just let things go. Is there another question? Oh my God. For diction things, what if the NAP immediately reassociation corrects the statement 2 seconds after reset OK before the AP? But okay, for Arif, we're going to speak of that in the FtMGS case. Oops, that's way too much. Okay, so let's just continue to the FtMGS, okay? So FtMGS, what is it? Well, according to the IPG, FtMGS is when a player allows another player in the game to commit a gameplay error and does not point it out immediately. As I said before, FtMGS when you don't point out their opponent's screw up, and now you're also screwed up. So your opponent gets GPE and you get the FtMGS warning. There are rules for FtMGS. There has to be a player committing GPE, other than FtMGS, of course. The player committing GPE cannot also get FtMGS. Only the opponent can. The player getting FtMGS is for not pointing out opponent's error. If a player points out error immediately, it's not FtMGS. Just like I said above, it's not FtMGS, or it's not a double GRV, because it's just like 2 seconds later. You need, as a judge, you need to have like what you call, you need to be reasonable with those kind of terms. And the warning for FtMGS is a warning and only warning, and it can't be upgraded into anything. Is it FtMGS part of GPE? Yes, FtMGS is part of GPE. That's why I said that's why I said there has to be a player committing GPE. That is not FtMGS. The player committing GPE, the other part of GPE, I mean, can't also get FtMGS. That's what I meant. Yay. Wait, whose voice is that? Okay. So for example, an example of this is when Anthony casts Wrath of God by using WRRR, or white, red, 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 it's supposed to be at least 2 white mana. Nelson immediately stops the game before anything happens and calls a judge. So in this case, Anthony screws up. But since Nelson pointed out immediately, he would not receive an FtMGS penalty. And for obvious reason, if it didn't say it and it resolves, he will get FtMGS. And of course, if you believe that a player is not pointing out an error on purpose, that would be, of course, cheating. An example of this is like with the Juggernaut case. If the player that controls a creature that must attack but didn't, the opponent also didn't say it because they don't want to take the damage. It's just so big. Juggernaut is like 6 damage. And depending on the investigation, this might be considered cheating. Another important thing is that we don't have to remind the opponent for the triggered ability. Even if they screw up, if it's triggered ability, you won't get FtMGS. This is because mistrigger is handled differently. Even if the rule is you must point out your opponent's error, this is the FtMGS. But mistrigger rule is a player is allowed to not point out an opponent's mistrigger because it's allowed by the rule itself, it can't be an infraction. Maybe one day I'll talk about mistrigger, but not today. So why is FtMGS an infraction rule? The philosophy of this infraction is that if the error is caught early, it won't become too much of a problem. If the error happens, so opponent is also at fault for not noticing the error. Remember, both players are responsible for the game state. So if the opponent is observant, we can help catch it before it turns into an even bigger mess. And also, I did mention that FtMGS warning can't be upgraded into warning. Why is that? Then why we even bother giving warning like this? That's because players don't like getting warnings. It won't affect their match score or anything, but players are human. It will feel bad to get a warning in a tournament, and hopefully this will make them pay more attention to the opponents, to the board states as a whole. And repeating FtMGS, that could be an indication for cheating. So for example, oh my God, this guy has like 12 FtMGS warning. You should really check on that. That's like 12 times. He may know the rule and then he's cheating out of it. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Will Seiju who endures issue a GRV? Can you wait, I'll answer the Boseiju thing after this. Yeah, there we go. Because we're really close to it. And again, as I said, it won't match their score, but yeah. So why not make FtMGS warning have the same effect as other warnings? Can we just upgrade them into game loss? And this is actually one of the thing that I think it's interesting. It's because the one actually committing the error is the opponent. The player only observes the error, but he doesn't realize it. So it doesn't make sense if the person only sees what happened, getting the same penalty as the one who's actually committing the error. There's also things you need to consider when making FtMGS call. In FtMGS, player get infraction when error happens and they not point it out immediately. But what if player A play things so quickly that player B can't keep up? Or should player B still get FtMGS? You can comment the answer in chat while I'll talk about the procedure. How many of what were beneficial sessions? And for floor, we don't want the player to stop calling the judge. What do you think? And for Joel, can you elaborate what do you consider the procedure who endures a GRV and FtMGS example? If FtMGS were upgradable warnings, player might not want to call judge. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Because the QJ, that's exactly a good point. Right. I think it's floor veil. Yeah. So if FtMGS was upgradable warning, they might not want to call a judge because it's not their fault and they might get game lost. That's a good point. That's exactly. And for Sashi, how many of those? Player A channels procedure and kills a land. Player A forgets and tell opponents. Forgets to tell opponents, does not search. I think we can make this into a question actually. What do you guys think about this? If player A channels a procedure and kills a land, player A forgets to tell the opponent to search, and the opponent does not search. I think it's probably equivalent with Assassin's Trophy and what do you call that? Path to Exile. Yeah, Path to Exile. We talked about this before. So if anyone wants to answer, we can do it. 2 GRV. Exactly. As I said before, the procedure, like Assassin's Trophy, Path to Exile, and Field of Ruin. Yes. So procedure kills a land, and player A forgets to tell, and opponent doesn't play the card, and he doesn't do anything. So that adds a double GRV. And for Sashi, how many of those were beneficial? Maybe we can. Well, actually, this is actually the end of the FtMGS. So yay. Thank you guys for listening. And we're done. Thank you so much for being such a good listener. I hope you guys are amazing. I hope that, wait, we still have time. Wait, we still have time. Okay, now, we'll be doing a little quiz because Felix won't gonna let me stop early. It's a simple quiz, no worry. No, it's a simple quiz. There's still a quiz now. We're going to the quiz. No, don't leave. It's simple though, actually. So in quiz 1, Anthony announces Demonic Dread and exiles Simian Spirit Guide to generate enough mana. Anthony then realizes he has no target for Demonic Dread. What should we do? You guys can type your answer in chat. He hasn't Cascade. Good question, Carlo. For Sanjaya, Sibian still gets exiled. What about the others? Let's see. Undo everything, but demonic dread is can't be casted. Yes, exactly, can't be cast because there's not enough. There's not there's no target for it. Correct. Return, undo everything, including Simeon. Return Undread, exile guide, back up and put Simeon back to hand. Okay, so this example is actually worth mentioning because it doesn't even need head judge to involve. If a player begins to take an illegal action and then catches it partway through, we could rewind it at the start of the action. Demonic Dread and Simeon Spirit Guide should be both returned to hand, and the player should play on. DQ. Return Simeon to hand, undo Dread. Exactly. Back up. We don't exile Simeon because the Dread return is an illegal action, and he's using it to pay the mana and all that. That's why they both return to hand. Floor, treat it as the player just showed some cards to their opponent. Yes. So we just, oh my god, they fell. And also they get warning. Don't forget that. Okay, so since this is done, let's go to another one. This is actually a real case. This is actually a real case and a modern event. Anthony plays a Cavern of Soul, saying Titan. His deck is Amulet Titan deck, of course. And Nelson gives an okay. Anthony then casts Primeval Titan, tapping Cavern of Soul for mana to cast. Opponent plays Counterspell, targeting Primeval Titan. Anthony's now confused, and he's saying, no, the Titan can't be countered. But Nelson says, yes, your Titan is a giant. It's not a Titan. That's why I can counter it. And Anthony calls the judge and explain that he obviously meant to name giant because his deck is a Titan deck. Nelson says he didn't know that Titan is not an actual creature card. What will he do? I think this was in Ask Judge. Oh, right. Yes, Joel. I think it's CPV because he didn't say anything. Okay, yeah. That's why you guys need to what do you call that? You guys need to investigate further to understand what's happening on the field. Yes, it's back up, return Counterspell to hand, partial fixed cavern. There used to be a Titan creature type. Yes, there was, but now it's changed to giant. Since Cavern needs to be an actual illegal naming creature type, back up. Titan is a legal creature type. The intent is clear. He wants to cast Titan, but Titan is not an actual creature card. In this case, you back up everything on the stack, and Titan player choose a creature type again. Okay, so as I said before, there is one thing called partial backup, and not partial backup, partial fix. When someone, I think it's when a player made illegal choice for static ability generating continuous effect, still on the battlefield, player makes legal choice immediately. JC Santos for declare Cavern, backup CS, backup Titan not existing creature type, backup, also they're played for. Okay, so here you don't you don't necessarily back up as much as a simple back. You just need to do a simple backup to return counterspell to the hand, not the title. You return the counterspell to the hand, and Cavern of Souls needs to, and Cavern of Soul needs to make a legal choice immediately. And also he gets a warning, obviously. And the opponent, since he didn't tell Anthony that he's making a legal choice, he would get an FtMGS. Chase the Cavern into Giant. Yes, by partial backup. Partial fix. Sorry, not partial backup. Is there any other question? Hi, Vendra. If there's no other questions, then thank you so much for joining. Thank you, guys. You guys have been amazing. And see you next time. And next is Red Bartolome.
Yes,
Thank you.